It started with a single click, a click that could have changed her life forever. James Whitmore, a self-made millionaire known for his wealth and cunning, leaned back in his leather chair, eyes fixed on the large, polished safe in his office. He had one of the most trusted people in his mansion under his roof, yet trust, he thought, had always been a luxury he couldn't afford. "Just watch," he murmured, a hint of a smirk playing on his lips. "Let's see what she's really made of." He had left the safe slightly ajar, knowing full well the temptation it posed. Hidden inside were stacks of cash and priceless jewelry, temptations that could make any ordinary person's morals waver. What he didn't expect was that her reaction would unravel something far deeper than theft or deceit. It would unravel his very understanding of what it meant to be human. Sophia had been working at the Whitmore estate for nearly 3 years. A young woman with a quiet strength, she was diligent, respectful, and surprisingly perceptive. James had noticed her meticulous work ethic long ago, but he had never truly considered the person behind the uniform. That was about to change, though not in the way he had imagined. On that fateful morning, the mansion was unusually quiet. The sun spilled through the enormous windows of James's office, highlighting the rows of rare artifacts and the grand mahogany desk where he sat. His plan was simple: leave the safe open and watch, almost like a science experiment, to see if Sophia could resist the allure of wealth she had never touched. Sophia entered the office as usual, carrying a stack of freshly pressed linens. Her eyes flicked toward the safe, immediately noticing it slightly ajar. For a heartbeat, James saw a flicker in her expression: curiosity, temptation, human instinct. But then she did something entirely unexpected. Instead of moving closer, instead of reaching for the contents, Sophia took a step back. She closed the door gently, set down the linens, and left the room without uttering a word. James's heart skipped. This wasn't just restraint. It was integrity, and it stung him in a way he hadn't anticipated. Later that evening, James confronted her indirectly under the pretense of discussing the day's tasks. "Sophia," he said carefully, "I noticed the safe this morning. Tell me, did you think about it?" Sophia paused, her hands resting neatly on her apron. "Yes, I thought about it," she admitted softly. "But it's not yours to take, not mine to touch. Some things aren't about money, Mr. Whitmore. They're about who you are when nobody's watching." Her words struck him harder than any insult could have. James had built his empire on wealth, manipulation, and cunning, but he had never been faced with such pure, unyielding honesty. And yet, the challenge had only just begun. He decided secretly to test her further, not out of malice, but from a desire to understand this strange, rare integrity. Days passed, and James's fascination grew. He began observing Sophia in small ways: how she treated the garden, the pets, even the struggling neighbors she quietly helped. Each act of kindness, unnoticed by most, chipped away at the cynicism James had cultivated over decades. One evening, desperate to finally break through to her, or perhaps to himself, James staged a situation far more extreme. He left the safe open, knowing she would pass by, knowing the temptation now held more than just money. Inside the safe were letters, revealing secrets that could destroy reputations, including his own. Sophia paused, peering at the documents, her brow furrowing in concern. Then, to James's shock, she did something remarkable. She picked up the letters and carefully placed them back inside the safe. Not a word was spoken, not a finger moved to profit. James, who had been hiding in the shadows, felt something crack within him, a mix of shame, awe, and a strange, overwhelming gratitude. He realized that the real wealth in his life had never been money or gold, but the rare honesty, courage, and moral strength of someone like Sophia. That night, James called her into his office, tears welling for the first time in years. "Sophia," he said, his voice trembling, "I've spent my life testing people, thinking wealth and power could define everything. You've shown me I was wrong. You've reminded me of what it means to be human." Smiled quietly, without pride or arrogance. "It's never too late, Mr. Whitmore, but the first step is admitting it to yourself." From that day forward, James changed, not overnight but steadily. He started using his wealth to help others, inspired by Sophia's unwavering integrity. And Sophia, she continued her work, never seeking fame or reward but quietly shaping a world where kindness, honesty, and courage mattered far more than the allure of wealth. By the end, the safe was no longer a trap but a symbol of trust, of human decency, and of a man who finally learned that the richest treasures in life are found not in gold, but in the goodness of the heart. True wealth is not measured by money or possessions, but by integrity, empathy, and the courage to do what's right even when no one is watching. Sometimes, the greatest lessons come from the most unexpected people, and the richest lives are those touched by honesty and kindness.